I did not care much for the first Fallout. Now, don't you all go interpret this as me hating it or anything. I just lack strong opinions about it. It's kinda the video game equivalent of drinking water when you're not thirsty, and as a massive fan of the newer games, this does make me kinda sad. So when I went into the second game in the series, I did so with fairly low expectations, not really expecting much of an improvement from the first game. Were my fears warranted? Would Fallout 2 fall into the same traps as its predecessor, or would it manage to tap into the lost potential that was ever present in the first game and deliver an exceptional RPG experience? The game was also developed in an extremely short period of time, and surely making a good Fallout game under such conditions wouldn't be possible, right? When starting up Fallout 2, you'd be forgiving for thinking that it would just be more of the same as the first game. The user interface is almost identical, the graphical style is the same, and most of the game's assets are reused from the first one. Since the start of this video, I've been showing you a mix of clips for both games. And if not for the fact that I play as a male character in one of them and a female character in the other, you probably wouldn't be able to tell which was which. This is, however, where the similarities end. Apart from the way the game looks, Fallout 2 is such a radical departure from the first game that it's hard to believe that they are even part of the same franchise. One of the most significant changes is that of the setting itself. Fallout 2 isn't really a post-apocalyptic game in the traditional sense of the term. Many people instead describe it as a post-apocalyptic game because society in Fallout 2 is well on its way to recover. Set 8 years after the events of Fallout 1, the areas of the first game are under complete control by the New California Republic, or NCR as they are commonly called, and this area is a well-developed democratic state that is currently undergoing rapid urbanization and industrialization. Because of this, the game is instead set in Northern California, in the Republic's frontier areas. This place consists of several different city-states of varying size and influence, everything from large cities rivaling the size of the NCR capital to small farming villages, with the two major ones being the anarchistic gambling hub of New Reno and the technologically advanced slave state of Vault City. With society being more complex, it also allows for the quests themselves to have additional complexity. Unlike the first game, where basically all quests are small local matters which don't affect the world around them, the major quests in Fallout 2 are more of a massive interconnected web. Instead of focusing on purely local disputes, a large amount of focus has instead been shifted towards a geopolitical struggle between the NCR, New Reno, and Vault City. The NCR has imperialistic ambitions and wants the entirety of Northern California to be under their rule, and they are willing to do pretty much whatever it takes to get what they want, even if it's questionable from a moral point of view. Meanwhile, New Reno and Vault City want to retain the status quo. Reno loves the fact that their independence and lax laws makes the place a tourist hotspot for NCR citizens, and Vault City just want to be left alone to do their own thing. This quarrel is where Fallout 2 is at its absolute best, and although it's technically just a side quest, I think this part of the game is more deserving of the title of main quest than the actual main quest itself is. Everything in the world of Fallout 2 revolves around this dispute, and that is why I think it's far more important to the game than the quote-unquote real main quest is. The writing of the game is also just as good as it is in the first one, and this really helps make this conflict come alive. Depending on who you choose to align with, you get the opportunity to do all sorts of things, most of which are highly immoral. We get to blackmail people, conduct political assassinations, wipe out criminal gangs, practice our diplomatic skills, solve murder mysteries, and explore an old arms depot from before the war. There are no correct choices here, since all the players involved in the struggle are bad people in one way or another. Sometimes trying to do the right thing might even lead to a worse outcome than if you would have just let things continue as normal. So instead of trying to be a model citizen, you have to decide what you think the lesser evil is, and what you think will benefit the region the most in the long term. This freedom stretches further, and the game allows you to do basically whatever you want. Do you want to become a slaver and raid caravans? You can do that. Do you want to become a porn star? Also possible. Do you want to kill children? Yeah, you can even do that. The game even holds the honor of being the first video game ever to include gay marriage, something that was probably far more controversial than the previously listed things back in 1998. There are of course further things to do outside of the 3 big cities as well. The game contains several times more content than the first game, and there are a ton of smaller settlements that also have activities for us. These range from various local conflicts to quests that are in some way or another related to the bigger struggle between the 3 big players. This is also where we get introduced to a lot of the companions in the game. In my video about Fallout 1, I did not mention the companions once, and that is because they quite frankly don't matter at all in that game. While the Fallout 2 companions are not the greatest in the world, they are a huge improvement over the ones in the first game. They level up with you now. You can freely change their equipment and even tell them how to fight. They also have much more developed personalities, although this aspect of them is still kinda lacking. It is very much a case of companions who only really tag along with us because they have nothing better to do. None of them actually have any real investment in the things we are involved in. There have also been changes to the combat, and while they might look insignificant on the surface, they have radically improved the experience. The amount of different equipment available to you is way higher. Getting powerful stuff in the early game is harder, and there are a ton of fun builds you can do with all of the weapons. The difficulty has also been ramped up quite a bit, and the game gets especially hard by the early mid-game. I probably died more times in Vault 15 during this one playthrough than I did during all of my playthroughs in Fallout 1 combined. Later on, there are even a couple of enemies that provide a serious challenge to you even if you've unlocked all of the best equipment in the game. Of course, everything about this game isn't perfect, and there are some pretty significant issues with it. One of these is the fact that it goes way too far with all the pop culture references. These references have become a bit of a staple of the franchise these days, but Fallout 2 really takes it to a completely different level. The other games are also a lot more subtle with their references. In Fallout 2, it is very in your face, and zero regard has been taken to actually make the references work with the rest of the script. Overall, it's a really messy situation, and I'm grateful that they toned this aspect down in the newer games. Towards the later part of the game, it also becomes quite obvious that the devs were running out of dev time, and this section was never as fully developed as they hoped to. San Francisco is far less interesting as an area than the 3 big powers, and it feels completely disconnected from the rest of the game. No one outside of San Francisco ever comments on what's going on there, and overall it seems like the rest of the world just don't even know that they exist. Add to this the fact that one of the main quests there is literally just a Scientology meme, and it makes the late game really underwhelming. Getting through this is worth it in the end though. Partly because it's a fairly short segment, but also because of the fact that the final dungeon is really good. Just remember to bring a timed explosive charge with you. You can't finish it otherwise. The unfinished state of the game can also be felt to a lesser extent elsewhere. It is absolutely filled to the brim with various bugs. Soft-locking the game is kinda easy, and any playthrough you do is going to end up locking you out of content for no discernible reason. But then again, isn't this true for literally every game in the franchise, and we still love them, don't we? Even if we go outside of the world of Fallout games, there are countless titles out there that are broken to hell and back that still have been able to become video game classics simply because of the fact that you bring something unique to the table. And in the end, this is why I love this game so much. It is unique in how it manages to create a large geopolitical conflict spanning the entire world with tons of moving pieces. In how it manages to make you feel like an important part of said conflict, without falling into the trap of making you the only important part of it. All while giving you an insane degree of freedom in how this should be tackled, with countless ways it could end. This is something that is extremely hard to pull off well, and out of all the games I've played in my life, Fallout 2 is the second best game at doing this. Which one is the best, you ask? Well, it's Fallout New Vegas, of course. And if you've ever played that game, you've probably been spending this entire video thinking that it just sounds like Fallout New Vegas is the game I'm talking about. And honestly, if I had to describe Fallout 2 in 4 words, it would be New Vegas in 2D. Both are broken, unfinished games that shine because they capture geopolitical conflicts in a way that few other games are capable of doing. So what is my final score? I give the game an 8 out of 10. If you love Fallout, you're going to love this game, and if you haven't played any of the other games, this is a great place to start out.